So what's up? It's your boy Mike, and I'm coming at you one more time with another video about one of my favorite shooting modes. And I get this question asked a lot about what shooting mode that I shoot in, and mainly I shoot in Aperture Priority. So you might be wondering, what is Aperture Priority? Aperture Priority basically is where you set the aperture on the camera and it does everything else. So on Sony cameras and most PASM cameras, it's the A. On Canon, I believe it's TV. And on Nikon, no one knows because who shoots Nikon? No diss to the Nikon crowd. Nikon has good cameras. Some of my best friends shoot Nikon. So Aperture Priority basically is a semi-automatic mode, and I know that is scary to a lot of like pro photographers. Manual is great, and I love manual. YouTube will tell you gotta shoot manual, you gotta shoot manual, and that's just not true. You know, I feel that you should shoot whatever mode that you want, honestly, because nobody really knows what mode you shoot unless you tell them. And a funny story is that I remember when I first started photography, I was just learning my camera and learning settings and how to expose and everything. I remember I used to hang with a couple other photographers, and I remember this one guy, and I'm not gonna say his name, but we were going over photos and, you know, kind of checking each other's work or whatever, you know, kind of showing off what we had or whatever. And I remember him looking at my work and he liked it. You know, he's like, oh man, this is dope, this is cool, yada yada woo de woo. And when I told him that I shot it in Aperture Priority, he had this like look. It's like this weird look, right? Like he was disgusted. And he literally told me that if I didn't shoot in manual mode, that I wasn't a real photographer, and that he couldn't respect me as a photographer if I shot in Aperture Priority and not manual, and that I would never be as good of a photographer as him. And those words have stuck with me throughout this time. That was probably about 6 or 7 years ago at this point. And those words have stuck with me because I have been on a quest to prove this guy wrong, and he was so wrong. You can shoot whatever mode you want, and a lot of pros actually don't shoot manual. You know, I have shot in Aperture Priority for a majority of my photography career. There are certain instances that I do shoot manual, especially when I'm shooting in studio or when I have a controlled set. I definitely shoot manual, but for the most part, I'm shooting Aperture Priority. So here are a couple of reasons why I shoot Aperture Priority, and maybe it's something you might want to look into. Ease of use. Honestly, when someone asks me why I shoot in Aperture Priority, my real answer to that is why not? So cameras nowadays are super smart, and they're basically like little computers. And I trust that a camera can get an exposure right and make those changes quicker than I can. I'm very good with my hands and I'm very quick. I have really good reflexes. There's nothing faster than really a computer changing itself. And I feel like a camera's processing chip is way faster than me. So with these new cameras, we spend a lot of money on them. And why would you not trust the $2,000 plus camera that you bought to judge the exposure of a scene? I know that a lot of photographers really want all that control over the camera, but do you really need all that control? So manual mode is just slower. I've missed so many shots, especially when I'm documenting my day or documenting my life, or shots with my kids, or shot with my wife or my friends, or just on vacation, or just doing street photography. And there's so many things that are going on around you that you can snap, that you can take a shot of, but you will miss that shot if you're fiddling around with your camera. It's a lot. It is a lot, especially when you want to catch something in the moment. Also, I feel that with the aperture, I'm able to tell a better story. So for me, I'm able to either isolate a subject or give more depth to that subject to emphasize what's actually going on and where I want to direct the viewer's eye. You know, with a shallow depth of field, I can isolate a person walking down the street and that person stands out amongst the crowd, and you know, everything else around it is blurry. Or, you know, I can stop down to f8 and get everything in focus, and now the story is everything and it's not just a singular piece. So that's how you can still retain some creativity even while using a semi-automatic mode. There are times when I do use manual exposure, especially like when I want to get some action shots or I want to blur a background or something like that. For those shots, I will go into manual, and I think it's very important to know how to use manual mode. But I think once you learn how to use manual mode and you find out that there are better modes, there are easier modes, and make life a lot easier for you, I think that's when you really are starting to get into the process of being a photographer. As we all know, cameras are just tools, and once you master that tool, you're able to use it more effectively and more efficiently. After a while, you try to find easier ways to use that tool, things that make your job easier with that tool. And that's why I feel like Aperture Priority is not just a semi-automatic mode, but it's a more efficient way to use the tool that I've already perfected. So even though the camera is doing a majority of the work, I'm still controlling the camera. I'm telling the camera what to do. It's just giving me kind of what it thinks it should be, and I'm able to adjust what it thinks it should be with exposure compensation. So tell me which mode you shoot. Tell me what you think about Aperture Priority. Have you tried it? Is it something that you use on a day-to-day, or is it something you use on specific situations? So like and subscribe if you like the content that I've been producing. And for me, YouTube is kind of new. I've done it a little bit, but I haven't done a lot of it. So my last video had a lot of positive comments, and it really motivated me to want to shoot this video. I'll meet you in the comment section. Peace.